Welcome to the Healthy Mental Hippie podcast, where art and wellness collide. Well, hi and welcome back to the Healthy Metal Hippie. Today we are here with Canadian founder, businesswoman, Chelsea Jambo, and she is the founder of OURbody. Thanks so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you, Ashley, for having me.
I'm really excited when you and your team got in contact with your whole story and your wellness. I'm assuming you probably saw an episode where I am talking about menstruation problems. And then you were like, hey, want to talk to me? And I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that's how you guys really found me. Which is exciting for me because, yeah, it's been hell and I want to learn everything that I can. So,
that's where my manager kind of found you. And she's like, oh, like this would be a great place to kind of like have you, talk about it and share similar experiences because I don't hold back when it comes to talking about women's health and all the things that we experience.
Let's go. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I have your story a little bit. So you started in law school, then there was tech, and then you went on to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So growing up, my career path was essentially planned out. I knew from a very young age I wanted to become a lawyer. So I did my undergrad in political science and public admin with the idea of going to law school. And then COVID kind of happened. So I already got accepted to like 6 law schools in the UK. And I was like, okay, I'm going to law school in the UK. Got accepted to 6, picked a school, was getting ready to, go to the process of, transitioning from Canada to the UK. COVID hit, and it's just like that whole mess of trying to move abroad, dealing with different academic institutions was an absolute nightmare. So I deferred, graduated, and instead of going to law school, I was like, okay, we're going to defer. We're going to work, get some corporate experience, because everybody's like, oh yeah, it's good to have corporate experience. So I ended up working in tech for a couple of years. Timing sort of came perfectly where I wasn't really happy in the tech job anymore. It's because I'm always like, I'm an ambitious person. I'm always like, I want to learn, I want to grow. I'm constantly pushing myself. And, so that was something where I wasn't like getting in the corporate world. And at the same time, I was also fighting with, family health issues. My grandma had breast cancer at the time. My mom found a lump in her breast. And at that point, I'm like, okay, so like, the red alarms are going off in my head. I'm like, okay, well, could be genetic, this breast cancer. So, went down the route of, okay, let's figure that out. And the doctor's response to me trying to get preventative health care or get any answers about my risks when it comes to breast cancer was, he literally told me, he's like, oh, you're 24. You don't have breast cancer. I'm not putting my name on it. And it was the last part that I was like, oh, I'm not putting my name on it. Was his justification to not take it seriously. And so in the moment, I was like, okay, well, not loving the corporate world anymore. I have this fear that this breast cancer could be genetic, and I have a doctor literally looking me in my face and saying that he refuses to do anything because he doesn't see the value. He does not see the value in my risk. And in that moment, I was like, okay, like I started going down this spiral of just, okay, how can I better support myself? How can I better help myself? And, with all of that came, me creating OURbody and educating myself and finding suppliers and specialists to kind of help formulate these teas. And, that transition went from, okay, well, I'm still in a, corporate job that I'm loving less and less by the day. I have this passion project that I've been working on for like about 2 years, but I'm like partly working on, not really fully giving it my all. Because, I'm working in corporate. And one day I kind of just woke up and I said, you know what? We're going to go all in. We're going to leave the corporate world, jump straight in to this business because I see the mission, I see the value of, providing a product, providing solutions and support for women because I'll be damned if a man tells me that he does not see the value in my my health risks and my chances of, a dangerous disease. So I made that decision saying, okay, we're just gonna go all in. And I've been all in and we've been launched for almost 6 months now, like fully launched into like the public.
Oh, wow.
I've been working on this project for about 2.5-ish years now. So a lot has changed from my idea of like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a corporate girl, a lawyer in big law, working, in the corporate side of law, but to now being a entrepreneur and working on my own wellness business. A lot has changed, and it was a big shift.
I feel sadness and I feel anger when I listen to stories like that about doctors just being so dismissive. My grandmother and her sister both died of ovarian cancer quite young. I think one was in her 50s,
Oh.
and my grandmother was 69 when she died. So when I was having all the problems that I was having, this intense bleeding, even though I understand that's not a symptom of ovarian cancer, but you have all these thoughts going through your head, like there's clearly something not right. And the doctors, they said to me, come back in a couple of years and,
Yeah.
we'll just see.
My
There's nothing wrong with you. And you're like, and this is normal?
Yeah, like my favorite line is this notion of, well, statistically speaking, you don't really like cancer only affects, women in this ages. And I'm like, okay, but cancer doesn't discriminate. We can't,
No.
yes, statistically speaking, the average woman will experience this in this age range, but it's, I say, faulty to automatically assume that just because you're not in that age range, or just because you're young, or just because you're currently not on like the floor dying for like immense pain and like struggling, that it shouldn't be valid. And someone that I was talking to once said the best thing to me, and at least in Canada, she's like, Canada doesn't have a healthcare system, it has a sick care system. Like it only works when you're actually sick and physically and visibly sick. And yeah, so there's so many stories like this.
Yeah, there are. I mean, it's devastating. My mom ended up having a hysterectomy when she was quite young because everything just kind of went crazy. I think she was like, I want to say she was like 48 or something when she had a hysterectomy.
Oh my goodness.
And she was just like, no, I'm finished with this. And yeah, but she was like, it's the best thing I've ever done. And it's sad that we have to resort to such things sometimes. I mean, in the UK, I've had so many doctors just dismissed me over the last 7 years. So I finally went private, and I was like, what is wrong with me? And she said it is hormonal. She's like, even though when you go for your bloods, everything looks fine. She's like, it's 100% hormonal. She's like, I see this often. And she's like, yep, here's 5 options. Let's get you taken care of. Like, why was that so hard?
I wouldn't even say it's hard. I think it's this notion about like, it's a combination between, do the doctors lack an understanding when it comes to women's health issues, or is it just quite frankly, oh, I'm on the clock, I can only give you 15 minutes of my time. If this conversation exceeds 15 minutes, then, well, I'm just going to give you the easiest answer of, it's just your hormones, you're fine. Like, whatever, to just shoo you away.
Or it's just stress. And I'm like, I get how deeply stress affects you. I absolutely get it. But I'm like, this is like a step further. This is.
Yeah. But stress also impacts your hormones, and you're like, there's so like, I hate when doctors just throw around like just the blanket terms, because like, oh, just stress, or it's just your hormones. Well, one, hormones themselves are so complex, right? They're so fragile, and they're easily impacted by anything and everything. So your lifestyle, your stress levels, what you're eating, what you're putting into your body can easily impact your hormones. So just saying, oh, it's your hormones does not really answer anything. And it's like, okay, yeah, cool, it's your hormones. Okay, but what's your stress level been for the last month? How have you been eating? Have you been exercising? Okay.
Yeah.
Like, all these questions can then lead to better understanding what these blanket terms hormones are, but like just throwing around just your hormones is not really an answer. It's just, okay, and what next?
Exactly. It's like hormones. And where's the rest of the answer? Where's the explanation? Nothing seems to come with it. It's, were you scared when you pulled the plug fully and started to go full entrepreneur mode?
Absolutely. Like I said, majority of my life, I've had my career path laid out. I knew exactly what I needed to do, take from one step to another step to whatever. So when I pulled the plug and I said, okay, we're going to go entrepreneur. I knew, because I have, like, in my family, there's a bunch of entrepreneurs. So I've seen the entrepreneur life and having your own business and whatnot. So I knew that lifestyle. I knew at some point I was going to end up down here, like, but I'm thinking like my 40s, like later in life. And so when I made the decision to, pull the plug and go into entrepreneurship so young and so early, oh my goodness, it was a mix of this is amazing. Like one moment I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like so happy, to another, just like panicking, like, what have I done? So it was a lot of mixed emotions, a lot of uncertainty, because like you kind of get used to the narrative of, okay, you need to have a 9 to 5, you need stability, and jumping head first into instability was nerve wracking. But at the same time, I knew that this was the right path to take and something that really resonated with me. So yeah, it was definitely nerve wracking, but I would still make the same decision.
Good. That makes me happy to hear. I think everybody who makes a decision, I don't think they ever look back and go, why? Yeah. Even if it doesn't work out, right? People are like, I still don't think they have regrets. I think it's that regret if you don't do it, right?
I think like a lot of people have regrets on not doing it. I think because, I talk to so many people, and at least within corporate America, you see people become okay with complacency. They're so used to, well, this is stable, brings in income. They kind of have their predictability within their version of the world. And, entrepreneurship is so unpredictable. I think the only predictable thing about it is it's unpredictable. So, I've seen a lot of people, and I've heard a lot of people who've, I wouldn't say like talk more about entrepreneurship, but who have chosen to stay in their 9 to 5, regardless of absolutely hating their 9 to 5 and just being so drained from it and not choosing their passion, or not, going in a different career path. They're like, well, I don't really know how it's going to go and whatnot. So I think with most entrepreneurs, you already have that conversation with yourself before you even make the jump. You essentially build yourself up. You've been thinking about it. And when you make that decision, you are ready to essentially figure it out. And, with success or failure, you're ready to accept, I think more ready to accept the failure part of it. And I feel like a lot of people aren't ready to accept that failure, so they don't do it. Yeah, like you go in and you're like, okay, this could fail 100%, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to try to, make it succeed. But you essentially become okay with the failure and you push through it. And then if it fails, there's no really regret because you've already accepted the failure.
Yeah.
But okay, well, next thing, time to move on to the next thing, or we'll push this aside for now, try something else, come back to it after I've learned new skills, or develop a little bit more. But I don't think there's ever a regret because you kind of make yourself comfortable with the lifestyle of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It just makes me really happy seeing women entrepreneurs just like out there being amazing. So a lot of the teas that you have out there, do you have different blends, or is it like one kind of fits all? And do you want to tell me a bit about all of the teas?
Yeah. So they're essentially one fits all for the hormonal phases. So we have a menstrual one, so for the women in their periods. We have one for perimenopause, one for menopause. And then we have my one that's typically kind of more quiet, which is the menstrual transition one. So that one in particular is for women who have irregular periods, who are coming off birth control and just experience irregularity when it comes to their cycle. So it's kind of something that's intentionally made for essentially the women who are often, I wouldn't say neglected, but kind of often not really talked about when it comes to menstrual health. And it's, the ones that are suffering a whole different thing when it comes to their menstrual phase. So that one's that one. But, with all these teas, they're essentially they're symptom-based teas. So what they do is they look at the symptoms of each category. So what are the symptoms a woman experiences when she's in her menstrual phase, in her perimenopausal phase, in the menopause phase? And we find herbs that help treat those symptoms. So we have herbs that treat cramping, heavy bleeding, night sweats, hot flashes, moods, digestion, etc. And they're all kind of blended together in this one formulated tea. So, the best way I like to put it is when you have cold and flu medicine, how, it targets some different symptoms when you're sick. That's essentially the same thing with these teas. So, if you're someone who has heavy bleeding and intense cramps, the tea is going to target the heavy bleeding and intense cramps and kind of help provide relief towards that symptoms. But if you're another woman and you're experiencing bloating and digestion issues, okay, well, then the tea is also going to support those. So it's a way where one tea can actually support so many different women who experience so many different things. So it's less about targeting a product that's focused on women themselves, but rather, the symptoms, because that's the problem. Like, it's the symptoms we're experiencing, and all of these blends work together so that they don't, conflict with each other. But you can have one tea blend that helps so many women in that phase kind of find relief and find a little bit of solace within their phase.
Yeah. I mean, they're really huge things. And I think, if there's men listening, the men usually don't realize how many pieces there are to a menstrual cycle and having your period, just how awful you can feel sometimes.
Yeah.
There's so many things that impact you, and it's such an experience, a different experience for different women, right?
Yeah, like I created them because, I'm from a household of all women, and when we're all synced up, we all experience different symptoms. So
Yeah.
I had intense cramping, my sister had heavy bleeding, my mom had nothing. So we're just like, what do you mean I have nothing? So, we're all women in a household, and yet, the four of us still experience completely different ways on handling this one phase in the hormone cycle. So that's essentially the intentionality behind these teas is, well, one, it gets too complicated to, target each individual one. Okay, well, if you have cramps and bloating and whatnot, but I wanted it to be something that's clear and easy to go. So, you're on your period, or you're in your menopause phase and you're experiencing hot flashes, you're experiencing, mood disruption, you're experiencing digestion and whatnot, or lack of sleep. You can kind of just get one tea that is dedicated to your hormonal phase and what you're going through. And then regardless of how your body's handling that hormonal phase, you can still find support instead of being like, okay, well, I don't know what this is. Cause sometimes you don't really know what's going on in your body. And you don't really have time to go in and do a self-analysis of, okay, well, this and this and that. Okay, then I should grab this to help this. It gets too overwhelming, and sometimes it changes. So for me, sometimes my period change, it has a mind of its own. Some months it loves me, some months it hates me. It's constantly changing and moving. So creating a product for me was, okay, well, I need something that's fluid because the female body is fluid. We all experience, each hormonal phase differently, but also our bodies are constantly changing on how we're experiencing. That's not you're going to have intense bleeding all the time. You will have intense bleeding all the time. Sometimes you have intense bleeding with cramps. Sometimes it's intense bleeding. Sometimes you're constantly changing pads and having to layer. So, our bodies are constantly moving. So creating a product that allows us to move and still find support at the same time was something that was important to me when I was creating these teas.
And that is so true. After I had some surgery, I didn't have a hysterectomy, but after I've had some surgery and had a coil fitted, I'm not really bleeding at all anymore, which is fabulous.
Right.
Again, just if whoever's listening hasn't heard it, I was bleeding so heavily that I had clots the size of my fist. I would soak through a Super Plus tampon pad and a pair of period pants, period underwear, through my regular trousers, through my regular pants. Within 15 minutes, I was bleeding. I was not messing around. I was bleeding.
Oh my goodness. That, I think, is probably the worst, in heavy bleeding stories I've heard.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm like, where were you then? When I was a teen, it wasn't really that bad. And you know what? I never really got cramps or anything. It was just a flub. Yeah. So it's so true. And I hear about women that are like, oh, I use 3 tampons in my whole period. And I'm like, how? But we're all made differently, and isn't that great?
Yeah. It's truly a spectrum, and I don't even think you can linearly map it out how complex it is. Because, you had just heavy bleeding, but no cramps. But, it could be completely different, and it's the female body in itself is, I would say, such a mystery just because it's not predictable in its behavior. Like we could all it's all essentially predict, like, okay, we're going to have our period, we're going to have this, but it can easily change. It can easily flip. It can always you started off having not having as heavy bleeding when you're young, and then it kind of got really heavy. So like that, like your body, like as it grows and it exists, it's changes and it moves around. So, and I love the female body for being complex, but with its complexities, you kind of have to think of out of the box solutions and even more complex solutions. Otherwise, any blanket solution, just anything, just like a blanket solution is probably not going to do anything for women.
Think about that too, where you're right. What is it? Oh, have to grab one of these and have one of these and take this and drink that and one of these supplements and eat this diet and blah, 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 blah. If you've combined all of it into a tea and then people don't have to think, amazing.
Yeah.
That was my other question. Do you drink it like all the time or do you just drink it like as needed? I don't know.
Yeah. So I would say this. So the naturopaths and specialists on my team would tell you, if you truly want herbs to have the best impact within your body, you kind of drink it more regularly. So your body has the properties of the herbs in your system longer. So when, you do experience the symptoms, you can attack it further. I drink it more when I experience the symptoms. So my first day is I quite literally have 10 minutes from when I wake up to before I'm on like the couch curled up in a ball dying. So usually when I'm like, oh my goodness, day one, I grab to the washroom, make sure I'm ready, but I'm like at the same time putting a pot of boiling water on the stove. So that's boiling. I'm dealing with myself in the washroom, come back, and I chug a tea. And usually that kind of helps, kind of like it's in my system. And so by the time my symptoms kind of are warming up and they're ramping up to being intense, the tea has been in my system enough for it to kind of mitigate the intensity of the cramp. And then the more I drink it, the more my body's like, okay, like we're going to soothe and calm down. But yeah, if you're experiencing the symptoms, you can still take it when you're experiencing the symptoms. I would say most women know their body's best. Like I know I have like a very short period of time. Some women can, take a little bit longer or, depending on how their periods are or how their perimenopausal phases or how the menopause phase is, kind of adjust that. But from a naturopath and herbal specialist standpoint, take it before all the time, before your period or before your symptoms, after your symptoms, so your body gets used to the remedies and the properties of the herb, so it's ready to go when you're experiencing it.
That makes sense. What about for people like, say like my mom, for example, people who've had a hysterectomy? Is that still something that they could they still drink it? I mean, would it still have benefits for them? But I have friends who are like in their 40s who have actually just recently have had hysterectomies. That's probably a better example.
Yeah. So I would say yes, just because your body's still experiencing those hormonal shifts. I would say it'd probably be different teas, and kind of how your body's handling, not having certain organs. So yeah, you can still have it. It really is based on your symptoms, right? So if you're, post hysterectomy or, experiencing these hormonal shifts and hormonal imbalances within your body, then yes, you can still take
the tea. So you would take like the menopause tea.
Yeah.
I would assume. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So based on whatever symptoms you're experiencing, I think I would go up. And if we're talking about phases, go up to like, menopause tea. But if you're still, because you said 40s, so that is, depending on where in the 40s, could be perimenopause. So it's one of those things where it's what phase are they in? If they're in the perimenopause, I could say, yeah, go into the menopause tea, kind of help with all of that. If they're still experiencing the other symptoms within those hormonal phases.
Yeah. I know when my mom had her surgery, she didn't take any hormone replacements. No. She was just like, I'm done with all of it. And she's like, I felt so much better since then. And so she's never had anything. Once it was all gone, ovaries gone, everything gone. She was just like, this is great. But I think my younger friends who have had it done, they all do hormone replacement therapy. And so I feel like it would probably be good just to like balance everything.
Yeah. Like it's a weird thing because it's one of those things where your body's essentially been used to kind of having this certain hormonal function and it's like operational function, and now you're not having that anymore. So it's depending on how your body treats it. Like, are your friends experiencing some of the hormonal symptoms that they were experiencing before, minus, the pain or the bleeding or whatnot? If so, then yeah, keep, have something to kind of mellow out those symptoms. But if you have friends who are like your mom, who kind of went through that procedure and stopped having these like all hormonal symptoms as a whole, then I think at that point, then you're good to not take anything.
You're good. Just you're
Yeah.
free.
If you're enjoying life, symptom free, you're safe and you're in the clear. But yeah, I think it really does play a part into how each body handles that procedure and how each body's kind of handling the shift, and where you're sitting after that.
Yeah, and I mean it's massive, right? Like, yeah, that was my option 5. I could have gone for 1, and I decided to go for option 4 instead, where they did an ablation, so they just burnt everything, so I can no longer grow a lining.
Okay.
Yeah, with a microwave. I know it sounds crazy, right? But apparently they I was asleep, so I don't know.
But after, were you in any pain?
No, none.
Oh.
I was just kind of like careful about lifting overexertion. It was kind of a weak recovery, but even then they were kind of like, if you have a couple of days off, you're fine. But it worked really well for me.
Okay. Yeah, that's like that is honestly, I will say that is a new one that I've heard. Because I would assume that would be painful, but I guess
it sounds like it should be really painful, right? But it's like 90 seconds. They put it like fans out in your uterus, and then it's like 90 seconds microwave, and then ding, and it's ready. I mean, I'm kind of making it sound more light and fun than it is, but yeah. But that is what it is, though. It's a microwave. That's what she said to me. And I don't think it dings, though.
Might be like a timer saying time,
yeah. And I haven't had any issues since. The thing is, though, because nothing's been removed or anything like that, I still have the period symptoms, right? I still get bloating. I still have that. That's my other big symptom, is like several horrible days of just like never feeling lower in your life. And you're just like, ugh. I actually don't have them as bad as I used to, but I think some of that was circumstance based. But sometimes it still gets me. And especially if I'm a bit run down or things like that, there's so many things, I think, as people, but I think especially as women, that we have to look out for in our bodies, right?
Yeah, that does. It kind of sucks where you solved one major problem that you're having, but you're still experiencing the other side effects. I mean, I guess your body still it still sees, like your organs and your like uterus, and it still knows that it's there. So it's like, okay, well, we have a practice to do. We kind of have, responsibilities that time of the month.
Let's get busy.
Yeah.
And it's so bizarre, though. But I'm still happy that I went ahead with it. But that's why I sit there going, I think I'm going to need some of your tea, because I honestly, I think it would be a massive help for me, right? So that I can keep that balance going through the month. In a lot of the kit that I got, you talk a lot about ritual and taking care of yourself in all aspects and around your cycle and everything else. Mm-hmm. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, for me, it's, when I have my period, I give myself entire grace that entire week. I'm like, okay. So sometimes I have like 10,000 things on my calendar that I need to do. And because how intense my first day is, I just do nothing. And I don't feel guilty about it. I think a lot of us feel guilty about like, oh, well, we have to keep doing this. We have to keep doing that. We have to keep pushing. And I know a lot of us women have essentially become stronger with day-to-day life because we've been told that we have to keep pushing through. When you're stuck in a corporate job or a 9-to-5 job, you essentially have to still go to work when you're, feeling like shit. So for me, I give myself that period of, okay, well, my body right now is going to war with itself. My body is in immense pain, even though I am taking the tea and I'm, mitigating the intensity of that pain. My body still is going through a lot in
Yeah.
this moment. So instead of just pushing myself for the sake of, I have to, I've been told to, I take it easy. I take it slow. I do not feel guilty about taking midday naps and like
Yeah.
taking it easy, going for walks. My workouts completely change. So if I am in the mood or that's what I'm up to doing, I go for a walk on the treadmill. I really just listen to my body. And I say, okay, instead of me saying, okay, well, I have to do X, Y, and Z because that's just a routine. That's why that's the structure that I've been told or I have for myself. Or, this week I was going to do this and that and this. If my body is quite literally saying, no, I can
Yeah.
I can do this, I can do that, but I'm not doing it all, then I listen to it and I don't feel bad about it. I take it slow, I take it easy, and I allow myself to try my best to enjoy that moment and kind of like just, okay, it sucks to go through that phase in life, but what sucks more is the expectation and the pressure we put on ourselves to do everything.
When we do push, when we are not really physically or emotionally fit to do so, it makes everything take longer anyway, and you recover more slowly, and it's just all this kind of stuff. But there's so much guilt placed on us, I think, especially as women, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're just, you're just too emotional, or
Yeah.
you just don't have those same priorities as us men, and it's like,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah. Or my favorite thing was like, oh, it's just your period. I'm like, what do you mean it's just my period? Like, do
Yeah.
you know what just a period means? And so I've loved seeing videos of like men taking the period simulator.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that brings me the most joy in life because I'm like, oh, okay, it's just cramps, boys. It's just cramps. Why are you on the floor at like level 3?
Yes. Oh my god. I saw one yesterday and it really made me laugh because this guy was like, "Let's go." And then they put it up to 8 and he was like, "Whoa." He was just dying. I saw another one where it was like the girl, she had the thing put on and 2 like coworkers and they had to do basic like work tasks like bring some boxes from one thing to another and give a presentation and do these things. And the girl was just like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And the guys were like, ah, da, 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 da. And you were like, and I'm just laughing so hard because I'm like, yeah, this is just what women do every
Yeah.
day. Like,
And
it's no big deal. But when we say it's a big deal and we're struggling, please listen because
yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
We've probably hit like level 17 on the pain and discomfort scale at that point.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, I was reading the other day and it was like, for that simulator, most women sit at around a 7 on that pain scale. Like their everyday life is a 7. And, so I watch until I see 7. I'm like, how are they at 7? And they're on the floor. So it's a funny thing where like this pressure is one partly because we've all kind of drank the Kool-Aid and we've all been told, get over it. It's just a period. So we tell ourselves, get over it. It's just a period. We still have to show up to work. We still have to show up for our families. If you have kids, show up for your kids, show up for your partner or like whatever. Like you're essentially told to show up regardless of how badly you're feeling. And anything else is, seen as like you're letting somebody down or as a disappointment. So for me, I really encourage women. I'm like, listen, like you're the one who's over here experiencing the intense symptoms that you're going through right now. And as much as you might feel guilt for, taking it easy or being slower that week or being slower when the symptoms are hitting, that's perfectly fine. But I think we need to start changing that narrative around, oh, I need to keep doing this, I need to do that, and start saying, okay, what does my body feel like doing? Instead of saying, I need to do this, it's okay, what does my body feel like doing? If your body feels like it's able to handle everything on your plate, go for it. But if your body's saying, I can only give you 4 things out of your like list of 15, pick the things that, your body's able to do and the things you're able to accomplish, and then move those on to like the next day and like, keep pushing through. But I think it's important for us women to start changing that within ourselves and within as, community of women and changing that, like that narrative and saying, okay, I'm not feeling like it. not feeling like it. I'm not gonna let a man guilt trip me into doing more than I'm supposed to when my body's saying, I honestly cannot give you anymore.
Yes. Oh my God, it's so true. I think I'll just take a minute to say my son is fabulous. I've had times where I've been stuck home. I cannot leave because of the bleeding. I mean, he's 14 now, but he'll make food for me. He'll make tea for me.
Oh,
He'll just make sure that, like, I'm
you're
okay,
good.
make sure he's quiet and that I can rest and things like that. My partner, absolutely same thing. If I've had any troubles, it's just like, sit, honey. Let me take care of you. And let me cook anything you want. Let me do anything you want. You're not doing work. You're not doing housework. Everything is done. It's taken care of. And even after my surgery, he was first person like, I'm taking care of you. And I mean, that's how it should be. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes women do not ask for help enough. Like, and I think there's like this other line where it's like, we shouldn't have to ask so often because people, if you're like, oh, I feel awful, it should be, what can I do to help? But I also think that women we're so accustomed to just, like you say, just getting on with it and
Yeah.
not asking.
Yeah.
And then when you realize, oh, actually, I have a nice son who would help me and I have a nice partner who takes care of me. It's a really nice
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah. And I feel like to kind of jump onto that, like my partner, like he would see, so when I have my period, he's like, okay, sometimes if I'm busy, he'll like put the water on for me or like grab my heat pad. He's like, okay, heat pad, water, and then he goes to work or like making sure that I'm set up. Or he sent me this one video and he knows information before I even knew. But, there's been a lot of conversation about if you're a woman and you get your period, it's good to eat
Mm.
steak while you're on your period to kind of help put that iron back in your system. So he was sending a video. He's like, okay, steak on me every time you're on like your period. He's like, okay. I'm like, I just got my period. And he's like, I'll pick up steak on the way home. So just like having a partner who's also tuned in to the realities, like they can see you suffering. My partner
And they
plays literally,
care.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, this one day where I was too slow in consuming my tea and I just had like a bad first day and I was like throwing up and my partner was like, are you okay? And I was like, no, I'm dying. I'm quite literally dying right now.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, what can I do to help? Like, seeing your loved one in pain should be something enough to, okay, what can I do? Like, quick Google search, or what does she do for herself when she's on her period or experiencing this? Okay, let me do that for her if she's, passed out or like sleeping or like, make sure that, I kind of have things ready for her. And I feel like there are a few men out there who, are kind of just observant enough to want to be able to support their partners and during those times. And then others are just like, oh, well, it's fine because she says she's fine. So, well, if she says she's
Yeah.
fine, she doesn't need my help. Instead of being like, well, she says she's quote unquote fine, but I can at least warm up her heat pad or at least, put the blanket over her or check in once in a while saying, hey, are you okay? Or just, just asking and insisting if she's okay. So
Mm.
there's a saying, if he wanted to, he would, I think kind of resonates. Like, it's not that hard to warm up a heat pad or boil some water or put a blanket over your partner and just rub her back or like whatever. Like, it's kind of little things because you can't really do much for the pain, but you can be
No.
supportive when
Yeah.
she's going through that. Yeah.
And that's the thing. And even if you sit there going, I'm fine. The
You don't
the
look
good
fine.
ones, they know and they're like, no, you're
Yeah.
not fine, and let's take care of you. And
Yeah.
I think that's the standard women need to set now because damn, too many of us are used to being like, no, and then they just go
Yeah.
instead of taking care.
I can imagine like being at home quite literally in like immense pain and then having a partner who's playing video games with his friends in the next room laughing and hollering and hee-heeing while you're like on the floor curled up and just like in immense pain. Like that does not seem like it should be something that it is should be normalized or should be accepted and tolerated. I'm like,
But it is, right?
yeah.
I'm sure. I mean, hell, I have been there. I've been, even if it's not period, if it's just been I'm sick, it's like you can still make dinner, you can still clean the house, you can still do this and that. I mean, I can, but
Mhm.
I shouldn't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And so, so now
Yeah.
we don't put up with it. And that's the message to all the women listening. Don't put up
I,
with it.
no, I think it's just being okay to be in that moment. So like even when you're sick, like it's okay to be sick.
Yes.
'Cause yeah, like I think if you're sick and you're just allowing yourself to rest, if you're on your period and you're allowing yourself to rest and your partner comes in and says, "Hey babe, where's dinner?" I'm sorry.
What do they say in the bin?
I'm like, you can see your partner like that. I think, you know, wait a little bit, like to kind of see your partner's response. Cause that would tell you the man you're with or the partner you're with is, okay, if you were physically in a state of unwell, whether it be sick or on your period or whatever, you're physically not like feeling well and you're still not yourself, but 'cause I feel like we can easily tell ourselves, oh, we're supposed to do this. But, having partners who are like, who don't even ask you, who are like, all you hear is noise in the kitchen. And then you're like, hey, I made dinner. Like,
You're like, thank you.
or like, hey, but hey, you didn't drink water today. Here's some water. Checking on you once in a while. Like, hey, you're good. Goes back. Doesn't even does not ask you to get move a foot to get up off your bed and kind of do anything and lift a finger. But if you're still sitting in bed and experiencing and having those thoughts of, oh, I should do this and that. And then you get out of bed and you, let's say, go make dinner while you're still sick or while you're in immense period pain and your partner sees that and just lets you cook dinner without being like, hey, babe, are you okay? Or are you sure? Like that, like by questioning it, I think it draws into a bigger conversation of what are we tolerating for ourselves? And, it's one thing to want to do something, but it's another to make it okay and tolerate a behavior when it wouldn't be the same. Because, when men are sick, like they're sick, like they don't move.
They don't do
Like
anything.
they are sick.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's fine. You can absolutely be sick,
Yeah.
but it can't be that double standard of women don't get sick. No,
Yeah.
that's not a thing.
No.
And I think part of taking care of your menstrual health, having the teas, having the ritual, really showing yourself love and care, that's like the base step, and that should be like your foundation for everything else that you invite into your life, to have support from your partner or to make your home life a sanctuary and a peaceful place. And it should all kind of make up your happy life ritual, right?
Yeah, because lifestyle heavily impacts your hormones. And, when you start changing the narrative to being something of dread to something that is calm, that is self love, that is respect, it really changes your experiences. And I think it's so important for us to look at the experiences we go through life and give ourselves grace, but also listen to ourselves and take it easy and just not feel obligated to fall under the societal narrative of, oh, I'm a woman, I have to do X, Y, because that's societal expectation, but your body expects you to slow down a little bit, to listen to it, to work with your body, right? So, I think to truly be able to, have actual support for ourselves and actually turn these experiences that we go through that are quite literally painful as hell into something that, we're not just surviving, but we're actually living through, is to be able to change how we see it and say, okay, what does my body need? What is my body feeling? And cancel out all the outside noise that's telling you anything but what your body's feeling and what your body is actually able to do in that moment.
Mm, absolutely. And so right now, the teas are only available in Canada. Is that right?
We ship worldwide, and then we're working on creating a distribution site in the UK and in the US.
Amazing. And so if people want to pick up tea, where do they go?
They can go on our website at OURbody.ca and they can order online. And then we're ramping up some retail partners for this year. So soon people will be able to go in stores and buy our teas.
Ooh, I'm excited about that. Tell everybody in Canada, go get it. And if people want to follow you, your journey and everything else, where's the best place that they can find you?
Yeah, on Instagram. So they can follow at Shop Our Body on Instagram for everything Our Body, and then see what we're up to and what we're doing.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here today, Chelsea. I've honestly had a blast. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a fun conversation.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Healthy Metal Hippie podcast. For more ways to connect, go to www.healthymetalhippie.com.